Hi, welcome to our breakout session, Building Out a Data Quality Program. Again, I'm John Bottega, going to be moderating the session. Let me set the stage by going back to what is our original agenda for our event here, and that is focused on the industry's ability to leverage innovation. How are we taking advantage of the innovations of cloud, analytics, advanced data governance, and how are we utilizing these innovations to bring new and better products and services to our customers? But we all know if the quality of the data flowing into these innovations is poor, the outcomes will be less than successful. So the questions for our next panel is this: how do you build an effective data quality program? What are the risks if we don't, given the new paradigm of digitization? And how do we empower our technologists, our business people, even our customers to drive continuous improvement in the information we collect, process, and utilize? To address these questions, let me introduce our panel. From Raiffeisen Bank International, Christian Tepliker, Senior Data Quality Governance Manager. Christian, I hope I didn't
It's okay.
that pronunciation too bad. Apologies. The former Global Head of Business Data Architecture at HSBC and an active member of the EDM Council CDMC work group, Ben Clinch. And from our panel sponsor, Atacama, James Winfield, Client Director. Welcome, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, so we're all on the screen now. So I'm going to begin with a really basic question. Exactly what is data quality? What does it mean to you? What should it mean to your organization? What does it mean to the customer? So James, I'm going to start with you. How do you define data quality?
It's a pretty good place to start. Hey, I think there's a lot of different ways to answer the question. It's very dependent on your context and how data quality relates to you. If we look at the dictionary definition, you'd say, what's the state of data within the business? What are the metrics you're using to quantify good data? But I think if you're referring to it more from a good data quality point of view, is the data within the business fit for purpose for its intended use? If you take a slightly more, let's say, ethereal approach and looking at it more from a business outcome perspective, to me, it always comes back to trust. Can the business trust the data that is being presented to it? And that obviously is a really, really key aspect of being able to operate effectively. But love to hear sort of everyone else's thoughts on what DQ means to them.
So Ben, I'm going to turn to you on this one. So this is my opinion. DQ doesn't even exist. It's not a thing. It's really the result of many things, many processes that lead into data quality. So am I crazy, or does that make sense, or add on to what I just said?
No, I absolutely love that. That's absolutely my understanding too. Ultimately, what you want out of data quality is data that is fit for a particular purpose. But there are so many precursors to it getting there, so that the creation of that data is mindful in terms of its use. It's being described in a way that is fit for purpose, and it actually is created by people who are interacting with the consumers of their data to understand how it best serves their purposes and what the impact would be if it was to be incorrect.
So Christian, working at a bank, I remember my background was in the banking industry, and as a chief data officer of one of the major banks, I remember having an offsite, and they asked the executives, what's your opinion of data quality at the firm? And it was a host of, it's terrible, it's bad, it's good, it's this and that. But the irony was nobody was really talking about data.
First of all, data quality is more a pain than rather than it's seen as something which really helps us, because it's a little bit similar if I compare in the past when the first discussions came up with security, because these people immediately in their head, they had the idea, okay, I have to invest something, I have to invest money to do something. With the banking business, there's one trigger which is forcing us towards data quality, because these regulations, and the regulator is really asking for, you have to fulfill this and to fulfill that requirement. They're really checking us that we fulfill it. But still, it's a painful process, so to say, because you have to invest something, and mainly in people's mindset is always, okay, anyway, we can handle it, we can manage it, and everybody else has troubles, but not me. So there are very interesting things going on, and to really make it run, I think you even have to do it more in a way like change management. Yeah. So really think about how people react and how to bring it to the people that they do their job.
So in a previous panel, when we were talking about cloud, one of the things we talked about is just educating the end user, right? So if you're really going to leverage cloud properly, you have to really understand the capabilities of what. I think it's similar in data quality, because so many people have different perspectives of what data quality is. So how do we raise the awareness? And one of the things that I've always advocated is, and like we just said, Ben, it's a combination of lots of things, right? So the example I often use is the quality of a suit. Well, the quality of the suit is not the suit. It's the material, it's the workmanship, it's the fit, it's the color. All of those things go into that. So let me ask this of all of you. How do we raise the awareness of what data quality really is to our end users?
Well, look, I love the suit analogy, because first of all, I mean, people are looking for different things out of suits. That there might be somebody who's looking for a suit to get married in, or for a big life occasion, or it could be an everyday kind of suit that needs to be hard wearing for the office. So for those still going to the office,
remember those days when you actually had to go to the office and wear a suit? Yeah.
Or that might be something where they really want to stand out in a particular social setting, and they want something that's sort of remarkable and unusual, perhaps. So not everybody's looking for the same thing from a suit, and there will be those different qualities that you mentioned that people will be looking for, in terms of how much they want to spend, how durable, and so I think actually it's a particularly powerful analogy, because data quality is is in the eye of the beholder, or the purchaser, or consumer of the data, as I've heard before.
Yeah. So James, in working with your customers and clients, do you find that you've got to kind of bridge that gap of awareness and education of it before you can use the tools?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think really you've got to get engaged with the business as early as possible. So you've got to get your stakeholders on side. And really what you have to do is articulate to them why it matters to them. What are the business outcomes that are going to happen off the back of having, good data quality? What is the impact of having bad data quality? In Christian's example, you've got the regulator breathing down your neck. So there's a certain amount of risk involved there. But then what are the opportunities that are associated with this as well? How much time is lost with people looking around for data because they don't necessarily trust what you're giving them? And I think that engagement, and as you rightly put it, that understanding of why it's so important is a really key aspect, because unless you've got a very solid business case, it's not going to work standing in front of the CFO saying, I need funding for my data quality initiative, unless you can give him a real reason as to why he needs to invest in it.
Christian, let me throw this actually happened to me, and I'll get your feedback on it. We were dealing with, I guess, the opinion of our trade data was poor. And sure enough, we were getting lots of trade fails, and I am speaking very banking oriented, right? We literally did, I call it my CSI investigation. We did the search all the way through the process. And what we ended up discovering was that the reason for the fails was that the instrument identifier wasn't matching. And when we went back to the desk, we found the trade assistants were writing the word QSIP in the QSIP field instead of actually putting the real number in. Okay? So was that a data quality issue or was that a business process issue? And have you seen similar examples like that where you had to bring the business into the awareness that process matters?
Yeah, how to say it's you cannot really split them from each other. They are closely connected. If I do something wrong with the data, then they are affected. If the process is not working properly, it's affected. I also like to work with analogies and one thing. So that's a little bit a hobby. I always looking for new things and learn from other things. And just what we should really have to attend is a customer orientation, because if I go to the supermarket and I go to the refrigerator, so where all these frozen things are there, what's there? There's the goods. So it's analogy for data, and what you find there, you find a price tag, but with additional information. Has to so it has to be used until this date. It has to be stored at least with -5 degrees. Things like this, and this is what I completely miss with data. So I didn't see any possibility yet. I tried something already on my own at late in the night, but I think this is something which really we should try to go to bring data and quality to make it one, and also to reflect then these processing effects, and in the industry you see it with these RFID chips. They track the changes during the transportation, if the temperature changes and so on. And it would be really great to have something for data quality. Unless we don't have it, we have to think about very many checks on different process steps. We have to create data quality gates to combine data quality checks to see if it's still working, if it's still valid. We have to look on data lineage and so on. So it's a mess.
So a couple of comments just came in, which I think confirms your comments. One is data quality is subjective. So I go bang to kind of your point, right? Good enough quality for one user may be terrible for another. And we see that often. And that's an important point as I go into my next question is how do we fix this problem? Another important factor helping to change minds around data quality is decision making. We base decisions on data, so the data quality is low, then the decisions are going to be bad. So I think those two comments, tie those two concepts together, I think, very well. So playing off of that, in this digital transformation, again, that's the theme of our event today. I think data quality carries a greater burden than maybe it did in the past, in the sense that you're not brick and mortar anymore. Christian, if I go in that frozen food section, a couple of pieces are old and bad, I'll just pick up the good ones. I'm not going to run out of the store, right? But if I go online and I see one little mistake, I'm out of here. I'm going to another website. Right? So what are the risks? So maybe I just kind of articulated them, but how, again, how do we raise the awareness that this isn't just a bunch of operations folks with little green hats on with yellow magic markers? This is business, right? How do we bridge that gap?
So I think, if I may, I think in digitization, the opportunity is to do things faster, more effectively, and more structured manner. And as a result, our customers, be they internal or external, have a higher expectation. To your point, John, if they go to a website and it's incorrect, then they're going to be, or it's clear that the data related to their orders isn't linked to their profile in some way, for example, then they're going to be unimpressed because they have a higher expectation in the world of digitization than ever before. But also, if things are going to go wrong, they're going to go wrong faster and at a higher volume than they have in the pre-digitization area. So consequently, it's absolutely critical that in the digital space, more critical than ever, that the data quality is higher because it has more far-reaching and immediate consequences. The other aspects, of course, are the nature of the risks. So I like to think of them as two different types of super categories. One is risk relating to the process, that the data is being used for. And of course, if that process fails for whatever reason, be it the data or others, that's going to have certain ramifications, be it regulatory, reputational, financial, and many others, but also the nature of the data. So if the data is potentially personally identifiable, irrespective of the process, if something goes wrong with that data, then there are certain ramifications for the organization that relate to the nature of that data as well. So I think it's useful sometimes to think in those sort of parameters.
How about from the perspective of regulatory obligation? Christian, I'm sure you're a regulated bank, and James, you work with lots of clients that do that. The impact of bad data in satisfying those obligations, is that fully understood, or is it, no one looks at the data quality as the cause? It's something else. What are you seeing in that respect?
So it will be understood if you take care and if you do your homework setting up the organization. So really looking for stakeholders, really to say, okay, data quality responsibility is not connected to just one manager there, but to a board member. That's very important, because we have board members for different areas, for risk, for finance, and so on. So it's very important to assign them. You are responsible for your data. Of course, then they have the deputies, and they put people in charge. Yeah,
That's a great point.
Yeah, and together with this, we have also mandatory trainings. So really, people have to go to trainings to learn about data privacy, data governance, data quality, why it is important, and there's no excuse for not knowing this and not taking care of this. So that's really crucial to set up a working proper organization, and also enough controls. So major part of my work is really to do monitoring and tracking and follow up data quality trends. So if I see something is going down, so we can then be prepared and start countermeasures. That's very important. Yeah.
James, a different angle. So and Christian, that was great, and even the escalation to the board, we're seeing more and more of that, right? So it's got to be there.
Yeah.
So James, I had this experience where we had a regulatory report going to the regulators for multiple years, and everything was fine, right? And we come to find out that there was an error on the report. Now here was the catch: the data that was on the report was 100% correct, and in fact, one of the attributes, balance, was exactly, like there was no error at all in the balance. Problem was, it was the wrong balance.
Yep.
So what was discovered it wasn't the data, it was the metadata, where the application developer thought, this is full balance versus net balance, and that messed it up. So kind of playing off of Christian's comment, setting up the structure, but also there's, again, data management discipline, I would think, right? That has to play into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, speaking from my own personal perspective, data quality, I think, is very much a subset of data governance. An incredibly important aspect of data governance, but data governance is and I guess more broadly speaking, data management is the overarching sort of piece of this. So, making sure, as Christian said, you've got the right stakeholders managing the various different aspects within the organization. It's kind of hard to articulate this, but it's incredibly important for organizations to have a solid data governance initiative in place. Speaking to your earlier point with regards to regulators, and from the organizations I've spoken with, it feels like they've been maybe slightly more lenient in the past few years, given what's been going on. Might not necessarily continue into the future. And talking to that particular data governance process, so again, the data quality might not be the issue. It could be the data governance process, and where you've got individuals coming in and asking for things like, subject access requests. Well, do you know where all of their data is within the organization? Now that's stepping a little bit away from data quality, but it's all in the same wheelhouse, and it's you can't really view it all separately. It does all kind of need to be viewed as one, with obviously data quality a very important aspect of it.
So as we see more and more migration to cloud, Is this our moment in the sun, so to speak, to do it right?
But then you've got to manage all of the legacy systems that you're going to be migrating to cloud as well. So
what I'm hearing, and this often comes up, lift and shift. We don't want to do that, right? We want to build the right features around that. Ben, congratulations. I'm patting you on the back. You are the new data quality, head of data quality. Go build me a program.
Brilliant. Okay.
So where do you start? What do you do?
Well, I think first of all, the most important aspects of data quality is the context. And actually, I've seen a lot of the comments coming in are highly relevant to that. So understanding what the data is being used for and defining that clearly so that there is no subjectivity as to whether this is the right data or not. If people have defined it clearly enough in terms of what they need, and sometimes that needs data modeling help to help with that precision, then it can be matched with the exact data that they require, and that we can ensure that the data quality checks relate to the context in which the data is being used and the source, to James's point around sort of lineage. So first of all, ensuring that it has context. Then I believe that grouping data in terms of ownership around production and consumption of data is really important, so that you have clear roles and responsibilities in terms of who is defining the data quality that they need in the eye of the consumer, as it were. The consumer needs to define exactly what they need and what's important about that data, so they can put necessary requirements, rules, thresholds, whatever is appropriate to ensure that it's fit for purpose, and then hold the producers of that data accountable. So we're grouping that data in a way that it's ownable, and that we have good, clear ownership and governance of the production. Now, all of that, for your moment in the sun with the cloud, is the great opportunity of moving to cloud, is that people can kick the tires on the structures that they previously had around on-prem in terms of how that data was organized, produced, grouped, owned, the tools applied. Actually, there's a great opportunity to be able to rationalize some of those tools, particularly as moving to cloud, often people rationalize the way that it's stored, and those tools can be applied. So there's a great opportunity. I think sometimes it's tempting for firms to just put the data into the cloud, because because it's such an imperative to do so. But of course, being part of the CDMC and all of the great opportunity to be able to govern it well in a pristine environment, I'd always advocate that people are thinking about how they can control that stuff in a sustainable manner.
I'm kind of depressed because this is a great conversation, but we have a limited amount of time, so we're coming towards the end. Plus, I don't know if you're watching the questions, but the audience is having a great conversation amongst themselves.
Yeah. I'm seeing some great answers.
Ben, you hit something, and you talked about accountability, and I'll throw this to Christian and to James, and then I'll give you one last question before we wrap up. But we use the expression "it takes a village." So it isn't just, in my opinion, the onus is not just on the owner of that database, but it's really through the whole life cycle, right? Even the consumer should have accountability for data quality, right? To your point, what's the threshold, and also provide feedback. So, Christian, in your bank, are you enabling that? Are you getting the end users to also contribute to data quality?
Yes, we really tell them, please contact your data quality responsible person in your organization. So that what we stated is also very clearly in our directive. So we have a data quality management directive, and it says, okay, what are the roles of the people in the bank? And for this, we also said very clearly, okay, basically data quality responsibility is a job of everyone without exception, regardless which role you have, which work you do, because data are everywhere, and data is we run the business with data in a bank. So that's the most important thing. Make people aware and tell them at least once per month.
So in the last 2 minutes, I'm going to ask a question and ask each of you to respond. And I'm going to play off Ben now. So Ben is the new data quality. He's suffering, man. He's just like, you know. So what advice would you give Ben specifically around, he's got to hire a bunch of people. What are the skill sets that you look for in building a good data quality team? And James, I'll start with you. And then by then everybody will have the answers for Ben. Well, he'll be okay.
I mean, so what skills are you looking for? I mean, from a people perspective, then clearly it's good analytical skills and people that, you know, care about data on an ongoing basis. Again, harping back to Ben's earlier point on subjectivity or the context that matters, it does really depend on the organization. I'd say the two key considerations before even starting out on who you're going to be hiring personally is, what does good data quality look like within this organization? And then how do I engage people to make sure that it matters to them? And then once I've you know, got those two kind of foundational pieces in place, then I can start going out and building the team, because I'm going to have a better idea as to what I'm going to need skills wise, what technologies we're going to be working with, how do the end users, how are they going to be consuming this data? So I'm sorry to take it back a step, but yeah, I kind of feel those two foundational points are key to cover first. I'm
also hearing that the skill set has got to be collaborative. You got to get out there. You got to talk to people, work with people.
Yeah, the amount of people that sort of think data governance is delivered and then that's it. It's an ongoing process. It never stops. So if you think it's a project that's going to be delivered in 6 months, then you need to sort of rethink how you're looking at data governance.
Christian, what about that? I think the Wall Street Journal called it a while ago, the sexiest job on Wall Street is the data scientist. Yeah, can they help us out in data quality programs?
Yeah, it's a sexy job, at least for me. You have to be very open-minded and you have to be very creative. So think the unthinkable. Maybe this is also because of my history and I had many different jobs and challenges. But I think that the broader your knowledge is and the more different areas you touched, the more ideas you have what could go wrong. And just to give you an idea, currently I'm working on some ideas following up statistics methods from mathematicians. So like Benford's law, that's a great thing to detect frauds. Currently I'm working on it to change it to detect data quality without knowing anything about the data. So there are really nice things hidden in the dark. Just have a point of view, a different point of view, and try to use it for data quality. I think that's the exciting part, and this pays also off. It's really great what you can do with such ideas, but it takes time. And
Christian, we're doing work on fraud, so maybe we'll talk later. So. Okay, Ben, did we staff you? Last words. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
I'm on mute. I love the left brain, right brain sort of activities Christian was talking about with data analysis. I love the collaborative aspects that you talked about. I very much believe, as James says, that data quality is also about relationships between business areas, creating and using that data, processes, and even systems. And those are ongoing relationships in terms of creating that value within the organization. So very, very helpful answers. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Well, everybody, I like I said, we could go on for a while.
Yeah.
Great panelists. Thank you very much for joining us today. And thanks to the audience. I'd say I'm enjoying reading all the conversations that they were having. So whatever questions they will get back to. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And let's go off to the next session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.